Jimmy first went to jail at age 16 for stealing a bicycle. He was later arrested for illegal possession of a weapon. At 18, he was charged with first-degree robbery and second-degree murder.
Okay, you should do something to me. You understand what I'm saying? Because send mixed messages. You know? But now that I got your address,
If you gonna come shoot me, kill me. If you're not gonna kill me, stop shooting me. Don't come for me unless you're gonna come and get me.
Alright, let me spin you a tale straight from the streets. You ever heard of Jimmy Henchman? He is one of the scariest dudes to ever be involved with the industry, with some of the deadliest beefs in the game. He allegedly almost unalived Tupac and 50 Cent, and right now he's serving 2 life sentences for M, and also allegedly heading a multi-million-dollar coke distribution ring. Trust me, his story is one wild ride.
He first went to jail at age 16 for stealing a bicycle. He was later arrested for illegal possession of a weapon. At 18, he was charged with first-degree robbery and second-degree murder.
So, James Rosemond, better known as Jimmy Henchman, was a Brooklyn boy, raised in the heart of the hustle. His journey started from the streets of Harlem, where it was tough and life wasn't easy. Raised by a single mom after his parents split, he rolled with a crew called the Untouchables, and from a young age, he was all about making a name for himself. Trouble seemed to follow him like a shadow. By the time he was 16, he already had 2 gun charges under his belt and a stint at Rikers Island. But wait, it gets crazier. After a brief taste of freedom, Jimmy found himself back in the hot seat for yet another shooting. He dodged an M charge, but still got slapped with a hefty sentence of 5 to 10 years. While he was in prison, Jimmy linked up with a Black Panther leader named Richard Moore, who convinced him to go back to school and educate himself. So by the time Henchman was released in 1988, he had an associate's degree. But old habits die hard, and soon he was back in the game, this time hustling in the crack scene. But then, a twist. Jimmy's homie introduces him to the music biz. Around this time, Tupac Shakur was on the rise and Jimmy saw an opportunity. He wanted to manage Pac, but the man himself turned him down flat. Here's where it gets juicy. Jimmy's buddy, Haitian Jack, enters the scene. Word on the street was that Biggie wanted Pac to steer clear of Jack, but Pac didn't listen, and that's when things really hit the fan. See, Biggie and Pac used to be tight, but once Haitian Jack and Jimmy Henchman got involved, all hell broke loose. Their beef sparked the biggest war in rap history, so Jimmy decided to switch lanes. He teamed up with his buddy Haitian Jack, and together they started a company called How I Can Be Down. Their plan? To manage artists for big shot labels. Now, Haitian Jack was the smooth operator type, rubbing elbows with celebs like Madonna. But Jimmy? He wasn't into fancy suits and ties. Nah, he stuck to his street roots, still peddling drugs and pulling off heists. But after Haitian Jack and Jimmy Henchman got involved, everything changed. Pac met Henchman through Haitian Jack. Even though Pac didn't want to be managed by him, Henchman allegedly offered him $7,000 to hop on his artist Lil Sean's track. Pac was fighting his SA case at the time and needed the cash, so he headed to Quad Studios in Times Square with his homie Stretch and a couple of other dudes. Puffy and Biggie were up in the studio too, but Pac did not get the chance to link up. When he walked into the lobby, 3 dudes jumped out to rob and shoot him. He was shot multiple times, at least 2 bullets to the head, but he still managed to survive. He was robbed of $40,000. Reporter Chuck Phillips, who was investigating this case for 10 years, reported why Jimmy decided to harm Tupac. It all started out of envy because Tupac was loved and he received a lot of attention from the public. After the Quad Studio shooting, Tupac accused Puffy, Biggie, Henchman, and others of being involved with setting him up. That night sparked the beef between him and Biggie, which eventually led to the war between the East and West Coast and ended with both of them being unalived. Pac aired Henchman out on the track against all odds and said, "Promise to pay back, Jimmy Henchman, in due time. I know you bees guys is listening. The world is mine, set me up, wet me up, guys stuck me up. Here the guns bust, but your tricks never shut me up."
Did I mention? Promise to pay back, Jimmy Henchman. In due time, I know you listening. The world is mine.
Henchman always denied being involved. Back in 2011, there was a lot of talk on the streets. Rumor had it that Jimmy, also known as Henchman, paid his buddy Dexter Isaac to rob Tupac. Yeah, you heard that right. Isaac spilled the beans, saying Jimmy handed him $2,500 to pull off the heist, letting him keep most of the loot except for one ring Jimmy wanted for himself to gift to his then-girlfriend Cynthia Reed. Isaac even claimed that another guy, Stretch, was in on it too, getting a chunk of coke as payment. But things got messy. Stretch ended up dead and Tupac threw shade at him and his music, hinting he'd betrayed him.
And that was down for me, rest of dead. Switch sides, guess his new friends wanted him dead. Probably heard it for the shit that I...
Jimmy, though, kept his lips sealed at first, denying everything. But then during some other legal mess, he supposedly spilled the beans about being involved. But that's not where the wild ride ends for Jimmy, no sir. Later on, he tangled with 50 Cent and his crew G-Unit. Shootings, fights, and even an M landed Jimmy with another life sentence. Now let's rewind a bit. In the early 2000s, at first, Jimmy and 50 Cent were cool, but things got shaky when 50 Cent blew up with his album Get Rich or Die Tryin' back in 2003. While 50 Cent was getting all the attention, another rapper named The Game got signed by Dr. Dre. Dre had this idea to bring The Game into 50 Cent's crew, G-Unit, to spread their influence to the West Coast. Now here's the twist. The Game's manager at the time was none other than Jimmy, and boy was Jimmy feeling some kind of way about 50 Cent's success. He couldn't stand seeing 50 Cent rising higher and higher, especially with The Game coming into the picture. Rumors started flying around that Jimmy might have whispered some not so friendly advice into The Game's ear, telling him that picking fights with 50 Cent would make him even bigger than 50 Cent himself. Jimmy was stirring up trouble, hoping to shake things up in the rap game. Then things got juicy. In a documentary, 50 Cent hinted that Jimmy might have been pulling some strings behind the scenes, pushing The Game to go after him. It was like Jimmy was trying to play puppet master, trying to make The Game the new king of the rap world. And of course, relations between The Game and 50 Cent deteriorated, and Tony Yayo explained why this happened in an interview with Vlad TV.
Poison in that was Jimmy Henchman.
You think that was a
Jimmy Henchman never liked Chris Lighty.
Oh.
He never liked Chris Lighty. It was always jealousy.
Well, for folks wondering who Chris Lighty was, he was 50 Cent's former manager who died in 2012. Now in 2007, there was a big ruckus on the streets. Tony Yayo and Lodi Mac bumped into Lil Henchman, who was just 14 years old, the son of a big shot named Jimmy Henchman. Now Lil Henchman was sporting a G-Unit shirt, or so the story goes. Lodi and Yayo didn't like that one bit, so they got in Lil Henchman's face about it. Things got rough real quick. Yayo allegedly started smacking Lil Henchman around, and then Lodi Mac, well, he took it up a notch and whacked the kid with his pistol. The cops got involved, of course. Yayo and Lodi ended up getting charged with assault. But here's the kicker, Yayo's case didn't stick. It got dropped. But before Yayo even had his day in court, things got real messy. Someone shot up Yayo's mom's house. Now here's where it gets interesting. Pretty much everyone on the street thinks Henchman had something to do with it. It was a wild time back then with rumors flying left and right. But one thing's for sure, the streets were talking and they were saying Henchman was out for revenge. Jimmy's tried to hurt 50 Cent and Yayo while they were making a music video. They were filming a song called I'll Still K with Akon when Jimmy and his crew showed up with guns, ready to shoot. But something went wrong and they had to bail without doing anything.
Henchman and them were supposed to come through, and I guess they gun jammed, but we had God on that side, and they backed out on the hit, but we had straps too, and that really was really it.
Later on, rumors spread that Jimmy might have tried to burn down 50 Cent's house, but nobody could prove it. Then when Lodi Mac got out of jail, he got unalived in the street not long after. People thought Jimmy had something to do with it, but it took a while for the cops to charge him. While the cops were working on the Lodi Mac case, Henchman ended up going down on a totally different charge. Now, let me take you back to the 2005 MTV Video Music Awards party in Miami. Kanye West was hosting and the vibes were electric, but things took a wild turn when shots rang out, and guess who got hit? Yep, Suge Knight himself. Rumor has it that Jimmy Henchman, with all his boldness, wanted a snap of Suge. He even told a photographer friend to get ready for the shot, but the photographer had a bad feeling about it. He warned Jimmy, but Jimmy was determined. So there they were, Jimmy and the photographer creeping up to Suge at the bar. Suge was puffing on his cigar like he owned the place. Then out of nowhere, he blew a smoke ring right at Jimmy. It was like a scene from a movie. But Jimmy, cool as a cucumber, just nodded to the photographer, signaling it was time to snap the pic. But hold on to your hats, folks, cause this isn't just a story about a party pic gone wrong. Fast forward a few years and it turned out someone wanted Suge out of the picture for good. A guy named Muhammad Stewart spilled the beans. He confessed that Jimmy had paid him 10 grand to take out Suge, and that's not all. Muhammad had a track record. He'd even tried to off Chris Lighty's brother before. Now, Muhammad wasn't just your average Joe either. He'd been in trouble before, doing time for drugs and guns, but he knew how to play the game. He'd squealed on his buddies to get himself out of hot water more than once. In fact, he'd even helped the cops stop a prison break once. Talk about a twist in the tale. Finally, Rosemond was arrested on charges of coke, tea, money laundering, and witness tampering. According to the prosecution, Henchman was running a massive drug ring that operated from the East Coast to the West Coast that was bringing him in over $11 million per year. Henchman and his crew would ship drugs from LA to New York, then ship cash back to LA from New York after it was sold. They didn't have to use their own vehicles to move the weight either. Instead, they covered everything in mustard to throw off drug dogs and shipped it through FedEx and UPS. Jimmy was handed down a life sentence, and the judge said his crimes were astonishing in their breadth, duration, and intensity. While he was locked up on the drug charges, Henchman was charged for the death of Lodi Mack in 2012. His own shooters flipped on him, and there were over 35 witnesses in the trial. And in 2014, he was found guilty and got hit with another life sentence. Part of the reason why Henchman went down is because his own people turned on him. And that is all for today. Until next time, bye.